Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I'm very excited to wake up this morning because there's like feet and feet and feet of snow. It snowed a lot last night, and so it's nice and pretty to look outside. And they did up the road, so that's a good thing. Anyway, so I was looking through my news feed and I noticed a post on one of my chemtrails friends. And the person they were talking about was somebody that we mutually knew. Actually, I met him a long time ago when I was doing the chemtrail activism a while back. And so I'm going to read this to you, okay? So I'm going to read you a post that really vindicates myself and the salt in a lot of ways. All right, so prayer warriors, needed please. Such and such is in the hospital with the flu, dehydrated, and low sodium levels. Please pray for strength and healing. Prayers for the family. I thank you in advance. Love y'all. God bless. So again, I'm going to read this again. Prayer warriors, needed please. Such and such is in the hospital with the flu, dehydrated, and low sodium levels. Please pray for strength and healing. Pray for the family. I thank you in advance. Love y'all. God bless. All right, so when you're in the hospital because you just got the flu, why did you get the flu? Well, when you got the flu is because your body took on a pathogen that it didn't recognize. You have symptoms called inflammation, called natural killer cells that come to surface and try to fight that pathogen. Well, if you have a weak body and you don't have enough nutrition, enough electrolytes to energize the body's defenses and everything else, now you're going to, your body took what it had, took the electrolytes, the very minimal amount of electrolytes your body had, and depleted the body's resources to get and deal with the flu, to either push it out if he was either vomiting or if it was diarrhea in the matrix, or he was sweating it out and he wasn't replenishing. Even drinking water is not going to hydrate a person truly if they're missing the vital component, which is electrolytes. So why does a person then finally have to go to the hospital because they don't have any more electrolytes? Well, the hospital has electrolytes. They have saline bags with also dextrose. So not only does it have salt, which is salt and water, or saline, which is salt and water, but they also have a little bit of sugar, dextrose. I think it's corn sugar, because your body needs a certain amount of sugar, okay? And he has low sodium levels. What does that tell you? That tells you, first of all, I know this guy personally. I met him and I met his wife a few years back. I'm not friends with him anymore because as soon as I got off the holistic train, then it was a back and forth BS game, and it was let's troll each other's page, and it wasn't really a good relationship after that. So, but I know this guy personally, and he's part of the holistic crowd, part of the chemtrail activists, because we did go to an actual event together that we were trolling the event. Somebody was trying to make, I think some weather channel was trying to make the public tornado spotters. And this is in Florida. And so we went to the class and they're talking about all this weather stuff. And we just kept trolling. We're like, what about this? What about that? And they're trying to destroy us. No. So, I've been doing the activism for chemtrails for a while now. I even made up little sheets and brochures to warn people that we're dying from the chemtrails. So I know that world very well. And it also is the feeder into the holistic industry. So I know that world very well. And I know this gentleman, not like so well, but enough to know that He's one of those that is avoiding the salt, trying to be healthy relative to what they say in the holistic and the allopathic, trying to do the FDA regulations, the recommended daily allowances of salt, which he probably is even underdoing it. Because I'm sure all the Jillian fear, right? I'm sure all these trolls out there that are totally afraid of the salt have probably done way more damage than I will ever do in my whole lifetime because of their fear of the salt. So in a lot of ways, this is like a sign from the universe that you guys need to see an example of some activist who is heavily in the holistic world as well as the chemtrails world, no less, now being brought down by a flu bug. Now, if he was doing J juice, and he was exposed to a pathogen his body didn't recognize, he would take the hit. The hit may not be as bad. People take hits all the time. They tell me so. Okay, when I'm on Facebook and someone says, yeah, I got sick for a minute, but guess what? I took J juice and it knocked it right out. Well, guess what happened there? When you get sick, even for a minute, when you're on J juice, it's because your body did what it was supposed to do. It took on a pathogen it didn't recognize. It went in and created inflammation, created antibodies, which your body is supposed to do because you have an innate and adaptive immune system that works for you. Created antibodies, went after that pathogen, and then you started feeling in some kind of way. And then this woman was smart enough to drink the juice, knocked out the symptoms, healed. So she didn't knock out the symptoms, she healed. Because guess what? Pain is healing. So when your body is finally at its optimum, whatever it is, that where it can take on a new pathogen and you won't go into weeks and weeks of sickness to where then you're put in a hospital because you're dehydrated, then that's the whole point of your body. If you never ever get sick, like ever, and you're not on J juice, but you never ever get sick, that means you have an overactive immune system, and that's dangerous in of itself. That's an imbalance of natural killer cells, putting you on that track of autoimmunity and who knows what else. Cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Because we have too many natural killer cells being overactivated, then you also have a trigger for hormones. Then you have a hormonal imbalance. And then when you have a hormonal imbalance, then you have cancer. I mean, cancer is a symptom of a larger issue. I mean, it's also because of too many hormones, because when you're estrogen dominant, that also triggers cancer. But it's also a sugar imbalance. You're taking in too much sugar, you're craving too much sugar. And then you have a heavy metal imbalance because you have too many heavy metals that the cancer can't possibly clean up and disperse in the right way. So it's just feeding on it and it's not releasing it. It's just feeding on it. And then it's storing it in your body. That's what this fungus is doing. Because the yeast, which is cancer or candida, which it's yeast, that's yeast overfed. But what keeps the cancer at bay, or keeps the yeast at bay so it doesn't become too prominent? You have the hormones and you have the antibodies and you have nutrition. But those all have to be balanced too. Antibodies have to be balanced, the hormones have to be balanced, so does the yeast have to be balanced. They all have to be balanced. So you can't use each of those three to try to balance each other out and offset it. I mean, they do use that in the body when it's actually working in the right conditions. But you just can't use them alone without taking in strategic nutrition and fixing the mutations. So when somebody does, like if I ever feel any kind of weird, which I haven't, and you think I'd be at all like exposed to some of these new pathogens, but I'm thinking that even when I get tired, or even when who knows what, I may have come across. Good morning, Krista. I may come across pathogens that I may have some kind of tiny hit that I don't even recognize, and my body deals with it overnight. I mean, I'm thinking that with my period that I just had on February 8th from December 8th, there's still mutations in me. When you still have mutations in you, it means there's hormones being created to then drop seeds, to then do what it needs to do to stay alive for a certain amount of time for you to drop seeds and then eventually procreate and eventually have kids. I mean, that's assuming that if you weren't a thinking person, that would be the natural instinct for a human. So I know I still have mutations in me, not as many as I used to, but since I still have my period, there are still mutations that are going on. So hormones being brought up, and that's why I feel kind of a weird way the last, day or so. I've been sleeping a bit more, sleeping 2 hours in instead of giving, I'm still up at 5, but I can go back to sleep. I'm not like just jumping out of bed at 5 the last couple days. So I'm still bleeding, but I know that there's still mutations within me. So, and that who knows how long that's going to take to get the stuff that I don't even know about fixed. So anyways, back to the whole thing with pathogens. So those of you that are on J juice and you do get sick, your body's supposed to get sick, but it's also supposed to recover. It's not supposed to land you in the hospital to go get rehydrated with saline. Okay? So the fact that that gentleman who is in the holistic world, he's also older. He's in his 50s or 60s, older than me anyways. Has a few kids that are adult children, maybe one or two that are in college. But he's on that death trajectory, and it sucks because he's part of the holistic world. They'll go and stabilize him in the hospital with saline bags, but he'll go right back home and do the same thing over and over again. And then when something goes wrong, he'll go to the hospital. And he's anti-government. He's all pro-holistic. And that's an example of somebody not understanding the power of salt and the balancing force of water and the electrolytes, which is a combination of a bunch of elements, potassium, magnesium, okay, and the power of lactofermentation and the power of the nutrients, not the vitamins, because vitamins are actually pathogens that induce hormones. Anyone that takes some kind of vitamin or a mineral that's in a pill, powder, or supplement form is taking hormone replacement therapy. They're actually taking in poisons. Anytime you go and induce a hormone, anytime you go do anything that creates hormones, that sculpts your body in some way, or your attitude, or your mind, you are bringing up hormones, you're taking in pathogens. You're purposely poisoning your body. So when a person purposely poisons their body, they have to go to the hospital, go get rehydrated with salt. Salt is that energizing force to energize the body, to get out the pathogens, give your body back the water that it's missing, as well as the salt, the sodium levels that it's missing, as well as the electrolytes. He needs to fix the mutations, but that's not what the hospital does. They just stabilize you. You are the one that's supposed to fix your mutations. The hospital is there just to bring you back to what you were supposed to be, but not back to where you should be. That's not the hospital's fault or responsibility. Okay, so I got an email the other day, yesterday, from somebody that was like, I'm not interested in living forever, but this whole thing with cancer is just a symptom. Cancer is really nothing. Yeah, people die from cancer, but there's so many cancer cures out there. You just choose one. Cannabis, chemotherapy, what else? Baking soda. But guess what? When you play with all of those different cures and you have no idea how many antibodies you have already sustained, how much damage you have to your vital organs, you take on a cancer cure, that could be your last dance, because you have no idea how many NK cells you already created. You have no idea how mutated your heart or your brain or your liver or anything else is. You have no idea. So when you take on a natural killer cell, which is a cure in the allopathic holistic industry, you are now adding more stress to the body. You're creating more natural killer cells that are chipping away and eventually will shut down a vital organ. There are no pathogens, no antibodies, no natural killer cells in salt, in cabbage, in water, or in lactobacillus. Zero antibodies in jelly juice. Zero. So when a person feels pain on jelly juice, It's because they're dealing with the mutations they already sustained from taking on those natural killer cells, whether it's from vaccines or from holistic supplements or from the different diets. They already sustained the damage, the mutations. They already have a shit ton of antibodies. Go do a titer test. So those of you that think that jelly juice destroys people, before you do J juice, go see how destroyed you are already. Go do a freaking titer test. J juice does not create antibodies. That's why the system isn't attacking me, because they know the salt is the force that saves people from dehydration from their practices in the holistic allopathic. Do you realize that? That's why I'm not arrested. That's why I cannot be held to anybody's death out there, because jelly juice has 0 natural killer cells. It's not a cure. That's why you guys can't use the word cure or even create cures out there that's not FDA approved, because you're dealing with poisons. Okay? Cures are poisons. It is not meant for the lay person to go create a cure out there. Because cures are poisons. You have to know how many freaking natural killer cells you already sustained, how much damage you already sustained over the last however many years of your life. And then they do tests in the system to see if you are appropriate for this cure, for this method. That's why you do not play with cures at all whatsoever or claim a cure, because even claiming a cure, you're still playing with poisons. Now, I'm not saying that JJ is not a cure, because I'm not trying to play with poisons and saying that and setting up that way. No, there is no poison in salt, in water, in cabbage. There are no antibodies being created. None. It's a probiotic. How can you have an antibiotic and probiotic grow together? Do you not see? This is another fucking revelation. Damn, I'm good. Okay, I know I have to talk about this to then get these revelations, and you guys are seeing it as it actually happens. How can you have an antibiotic property that allegedly kills people and a probiotic grow together under the same roof? It's impossible. It's either probiotic or it's antibiotic. You can't have both. Now, in a body that's full of messed up biochemistry, yes, you can have both a probiotic and an antibiotic living together, but they keep the balance. But not in a drink. I don't have my drink with me. In one drink, you cannot have both growing together. They would take each other out. Or actually, it wouldn't even, it's impossible. Now, I guess you could potentially, like where there's air on the top, now that's not antibiotic. I mean, yes, it's maybe mold, but then all the probiotics underneath the brine will then overwhelm that antibiotic that could be like the mold or whatever someone's afraid of on the top of the brine. That's where the antibiotic could potentially grow. But under the brine, no antibiotics grow under the brine. So there's no way, there's no freaking way that you can have an antibiotic and have jelly juice destroy anybody. It can't. It can't possibly happen. Okay? So cancer is the body system taking too much sugar. It's an imbalance. It is too many heavy metals and induces hormones, and then it creates antibodies too, because you have all these heavy metals in your body that also create, all of that. And so what would then offset all of that is nutrition. It's energizing your whole body to get everything out. Okay, so yeah, you can't grow. A probiotic is probiotic. Nobody can claim my juice can destroy anybody, because there is no antibiotic qualities at all. And I got it tested. The OAG got that official paperwork from that food lab. It is probiotic. Probiotic paired with the right elements is a life-giving protocol. It cannot possibly cause anybody's death. But antibiotics / cures can cause death, and that's why it's only for the FDA, it's only for biotech to claim the cures. So when you see the cures on TV, those are all poisons, and they will say, this is a cure. This is a cure. There's a million cures out there, but do you really want to use them? And not because I'm in competition with the industry. No, you don't know how many freaking natural killer cells you have in your body. You don't know how much damage you already sustained to your vital organs. You go play with cannabis, chemotherapy, or any other detox, baking soda, whatever, you could potentially kill yourself because they're antibiotic. They add to the antibody accumulation that takes people down, either through aging or one of your vital organs finally shuts down right off the bat. And you haven't really aged. Well, you have aged, but there are people that die that look beautiful, or that go nuts that look beautiful because they already have a mutation, a major malfunction in one of their vital areas, their brain. Look, people who are killers out there, the psychopaths that finally snap. You know, especially when they're on these things called Thrive, which is all hormone replacement therapy. That's what happened with the Chris Watts and the Shanann Watts. They're taking all of these Thrive patches where it does hormone release in their body. No wonder the guy went fucking nuts. No wonder she couldn't figure out or even get away from him fast enough, because they were both imbalanced. Both of them had major mutations, and one was already apparent with her. She had lupus, which then she brought in some psychopathic killer in her midst. She didn't have enough sense to know that this guy wasn't probably very kosher. And so she married a psychopath. And it ended up bad for her. Now that's an extreme case. But that tells you what exactly where you are on that whole trajectory. Some of you aren't in that psychopathic victim. Maybe some of you are, I don't know. Some of you are maybe 2 or 3 notches before that. You haven't gotten there yet because you haven't really hit that mark yet. But some people have, because they're taking on the cures in the industry. People don't want to talk about, oh yeah, I don't talk about the living forever. Yeah, because you want to still compartmentalize and play the I beat cancer game. Oh, I beat lupus game. Or I beat whatever the fuck it is that they have out there that they're marketing. Like, seriously. They have you all compartmentalized with your little diseases, thinking that, oh, if you just, cure this disease and you're going to be so much better, as you don't realize that you have a spectrum of other mutations. I mean, yeah, so if you are still focusing on cancer, you're thinking too narrow and you don't want to get my book, well, then you deserve whatever it is. And that's what the email was. This woman didn't want to get my book. She's like, well, I don't understand. Everybody in my family has cancer, and I don't really care about living forever. Well, sorry, honey. All of those cures for cancer that are out there will take your friends and family down because they've already sustained mutations. And you have no idea. You're rolling the dice. When you work with all these different cures out there in the industry in Mexico, Costa Rica, doing the medical tourism and all that, you're rolling the dice because you're dealing with antibiotics. And don't think that kombucha and alcohol and apple cider vinegar is a good probiotic. Don't think that taking probiotic supplements and shakes and powders is going to be any better. I'm sorry, but taking a pure probiotic is absolutely worthless. It's what it's paired with is the difference, because that's why kefir water and acidophilus in the grocery store, as far as a yogurt, isn't really effective. Oh yeah, it may temporarily relieve some symptoms, but it doesn't do the deep healing that we are actually addressing here with Jilly Juice because of what it's paired with. The lactobacillus, the water, and the salt, and the nutritions is the powerhouse. You're not going to get this type of healing with any cure that's out there because, first of all, it's totally antibiotic for one, and number two, sugar. When you are fermenting sugar, it feeds the fucking cancer. This woman I saw on Facebook, I really want to say her name, but I'm not going to say her name. She's a kid that's going through chemotherapy, and guess what? She's playing with elderberry syrup. She just put her kid in chemotherapy. Now, hey, there's nothing wrong. The kid's young enough, could probably take on a few natural killer cells. But she has no idea what kind of damage. Maybe the doctors did, and that's why they cleared her for the chemotherapy. But guess what? that kid that went through chemotherapy is now going to sustain more natural killer cells, chipping away at already the mutations in her vital organs and in her development. And then she's passed around elderberry syrup. Elderberry syrup. And I'm like, this is like the perfect storm in that family. That's what you don't want to be, is someone that does chemotherapy playing with elderberry syrup. And that's exactly what my whole issue with the other day with Belle Smith. Because she said she beat cancer and she's not doing any more jelly juice. I beat cancer. I'm like, and fine, that's great. But when I saw her say, hey, this post about on some public page about using elderberry syrup for kids against chemo, not kids for chemo, but kids against chemo. And she say, oh yeah, elderberry syrup, and they're passing around elderberry syrup as another freaking cure. I about came unglued because I knew this girl was part of my world for a while. And she couldn't do the jelly juice anymore because her cancer was beat. But oh no, she has natural killer cells she's creating, and she's playing with elderberry syrup or elderberry juice. So she's taking on and feeding her cancer yet once again. This is how messed up the allopathic and the holistic world is. And then now you're going to see the fallout from how messed up it is. Oh no, but they'll blame the victim, which yes, the victim has a lot to blame, of course. But they'll say, oh, it's your genetic condition. Sorry, but it was just too late. You're just one of the 1% that couldn't take this methodology. So sorry. Where would you like your grave to be? I mean, that's exactly where most of you are headed. Not all of you, but most of you. Because you're still buying into the activism, still buying into trying to find the cure. Hey, you go find the cure. You have no idea how many more natural killer cells you can actually afford. So yeah, that's fine. You want to get my book? Whatever. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Just like, oh, I have a free website. So? Do you realize my stuff is so controversial? You try to even mention reversing the aging process, living forever, you're going to be, if you're not even mentioning that, if you mention that, you'll think you're crazy for one. But if you don't even mention that, you still mention all the cures that are out there, then you're going to be no different than anybody else. So it's not very revolutionary. So big freaking whoop, you have a free website. I do this shit for free on Facebook. The book is for someone that wants to learn more because they're really like intelligent and they want to learn something that they can actually read for their own. And then they actually can apply it. They're not some geek who's a fan of stuff. No, they're actually a nerd who actually does, they're a practitioner in what they believe in. They don't just write about it from some superficial stance and then email me. She's like, oh, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to trigger you. Oh, honey, you already did. Good luck to you and your family. You focus on cancer, that's going to be your death. That's going to be your death wish, whatever it is, when you focus only on the disease. Anyone that focuses on their strict disease has lost it all. They don't understand J-juice. You have a spectrum of disease, and one of them is the squeaky wheel. So, that's great that some of you will say, hey, I did reverse this, which is fine. Okay, that does give people a little bit of hope. But then when you do focus on just the disease or just the cancer or just something else, it's no different than some cure out there that will put somebody in a temporary stay of execution. But you don't know, even though they kicked their cancer or kicked their leukemia, if tomorrow they're going to die because that one natural killer cell that they took on to kick the leukemia is going to shut the body down because you're taking on natural killer cells. So you see today they kick cancer, but tomorrow they could be dead from a brain aneurysm because that natural killer cell went and attacked their brain. They weren't strong enough. I mean, you'd think that the industry would test for that, but people die all the time on these different cures. And they say, oh yeah, well, she beat cancer, but oh yeah, she died from natural causes. That's why I go beyond death now. That's why I'm saying if you are not living indefinitely, then you are getting lost in all of the distractions of the allopathic holistic. I have to take it to the extreme, because if not, then people are not going to get it. They're going to still be compartmentalized in all their fucking diseases, which is really the distraction. And then when someone's like, oh yeah, my kid, reversed his autism or cured his autism, that's all they hear. That's all they can hear and think. And that's it. The kid could have other major malfunctions, but oh, they don't have autism anymore. That's the only thing. No, I'm sorry, but when you have autism, you have other mutations, a whole lot more, and some waiting to trigger. Because guess what? Your kid's going to be on that cannabis for the rest of its life. Elderberry syrup and something else. Maybe they're anti-vax. So, yeah. So just focusing on cancer is going to be most people's demise. And they don't even know it, because they took on too many antibodies. Because no, they can't deal with jelly juice. It's too much pain. Well, when you're trying to get rid of the pain, you stop the healing. So nobody with their free website is going to be at all revolutionary. And if they even try to be like me, they will get attacked. They couldn't handle being like Jillian. So your free website is going to be nothing more than just some other run-of-the-mill website that just says the same shit as everybody else, because no one's willing to stick their neck out and say, hey, hold on a second. It's not just about each of these damn diseases. It's not just about cancer. It's not just about lupus. It's not just about fibromyalgia. It's not just about my indigestion. It's not just about eczema. It's not just about, you can list down all the freaking diseases. It's not about each one of those. You have a spectrum of diseases that's causing the death process. And now we need to challenge the death process. Natural causes is because you took on too many natural killer cells. When someone dies of natural causes, they took on too many natural killer cells. And the body wasn't able to repair it because you didn't give it what it needed. And sorry, but the only thing is J juice. It really is. And you got to deal with the pain. And when someone gets all weird and like, how can Jillian say hers is the only way? Well, you tell me if you're reversing the aging process. You tell me if there's any evidence. And someone says, well, where's the evidence of regrowing? This is some snarky comment someone said to me yesterday, when I was saying that there is no evidence that the anti-vaxxers are spreading the disease. Look at the antibody titer test and see who has the most antibodies for a specific disease. And you tell me who's shedding and who's contagious. And they're like, well, and then they come back and go, well, there is no data to suggest that we can regrow limbs. I call bullshit. You know where the regrowing limbs is? It's called bone spurs. That's new bone growth. There is data to suggest that bones can regrow. There is data to suggest that you can regrow cells, because every single cell that you regrow will take your body and your mind and everything back to where it was supposed to be. The reason why it's not is because you guys are violating the laws of your body. There are two absolutes, life and death. Absolute life and absolute death. That's it. Those are the absolutes. Everything else is just distraction. Everything else is just a story. Everything else is just your hormones, all imbalanced. And that's what rules you. That's what makes you who you are, is all of your imbalances. Biochemistry. And if you don't get that, then hey, then you can stay stuck with, oh, let me find another cancer cure. Good luck as you're dying in the matrix. These people who are chemtrails activists out there that are like, oh, I have this issue, I have this disease, and they're a chemtrail activist. Why don't you stop your activism and go pay attention and take care of yourself? Oh no, you got to save the world. How do you save the world if you can't even save yourself? There's no fucking way. No fucking way. I know I'm swearing, but I'm a little annoyed, I guess. I'm triggered. But yeah, so this is revolutionary. And if you don't see that, then that's fine. You can stay stuck in the matrix, playing your politics, playing your activism, worrying about everything else but yourself. Oh well. Anyways, I'm going to go because I'm going to drink some coffee, hang out with my husband. Y'all have a good day. Drink Jillyjuice, JILLYJUICE.com. And think about what I said. You're too focused on your disease, you'll never see the bigger picture ever. And then you'll die. Bye. Hi, honey.